Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Hare. We have a verse for you. It's not a verse. We have something that Prabhupada said that fits right into what we had been discussing on Monday. So fasten your seatbelts, because this is how Prabhupada wants us to think, and maybe not easy for everybody. I'm going to read the quotes in the chat, if you can look at the chat. So this is from Srila Prabhupada. Yes, you can pray to Krishna. Krishna may be prayed that I am unwilling to become Krishna conscious, so you can force me to become so. You put me under certain circumstances so that I may be forced to accept Krishna consciousness. You can pray like that. It is Krishna's special favor and mercy that he sometimes forces a devotee to surrender fully to him. I'm going to read it again, and I would like you to share your comments or realizations or fears or concerns or resistances or whatever. Yes, you can pray to Krishna. Krishna may be prayed that I am unwilling to become Krishna conscious, so you can force me to become so. You put me under certain circumstances so that I may be forced to accept Krishna consciousness. You can pray like that. It is Krishna's special favor and mercy that he sometimes forces a devotee to surrender fully to him. Letter to Upendra, November 13, 1968. So this is not Prabhupada writing to one of his sannyasis in 1977, November. This is 1968. I joined in 1969, and I can testify that the movement was quite immature and primitive, so what to speak of 68, even more so. And this is, he's like, this is what Prabhupada came to give, so he's giving it, he's not holding back. So, how did you feel? How did any of you feel when you read this? A little fear, a little resistance, or were you ecstatic? Yes, Krishna, I'm going to go ask you right now to do whatever you have to do to make me Krishna conscious. Okay, before you ask, I have two stories for you. We were in Vrindavan, this might have been 6 years ago. And I think Indradyumna Swami was doing a parikrama. And one of his disciples was kind of at a stage of life where, like late 20s, when you have to like decide what you're going to do with your life. And all she wanted to do was kind of be a renunciate, but she didn't know how. It wasn't practical. And she's in Vrindavan, and she's feeling like, just, I don't even want to be here. I don't want to be in this world. And Krishna, I think the next day, took her out of this world. There was an accident, and just like an odd thing, like a truck hitting a rickshaw, and like immediately gone. Whoa. And I think about 2 weeks later, there was another devotee woman, a little older, in like her 60s or so. And she had a similar feeling, and she was actually run over by a truck. So now that you're forewarned, you may not want to pray, Krishna, please take me back to Godhead right now. I mean, if you really want to go and you're ready to get hit by a truck or something, yeah. That seems to be one of the ways Krishna does it. But I think for those of us who knew these devotees, for those of us who were there, we could see Krishna was fulfilling that desire, and it was in Vrindavan, so that's a good place to leave your body. But Krishna does hear our prayers. Prabhupada said, even though you're not a pure devotee, you're a devotee, at least trying to be, so Krishna hears your prayers. So, okay. So, we have one realization. I guess this is from Chaitanya Dasi. When I think about praying like that, I get afraid that Krishna would have to plunge me into a lot of suffering immediately. And I'm not sure if I can take it. Yeah. So, I don't know if I was mentioning this on Monday, but something that's really interesting to think about. A lot of times we talk about the mercy that Mahaprabhu gave Jagai Madai, but I think maybe there's a greater mercy, at least equal, if not greater. Putana came to kill Krishna, and Krishna awarded her position of his mother. And Krishna accepted her as like a mother. And, you imagine some mother coming to kill a child, like it doesn't really get any worse. Even I was told, if you go to prison and they ask you, what are you in for? And you say child abuse or sexual molestation of a child, even those criminals will beat you up. Even they will hate you. So it's, what Putana did was quite low. So one of the ways to overcome our fears is to not think of Krishna in like a Christian sense, because this happens a lot in the Western world, that we think of Krishna in a Christian context because that's what we're familiar with. Christian context is, there's punishment, there's going to hell forever. So I think we should see it more like this is Krishna saying this will hurt me more than it hurts you. But this is what you need, and when you go through it, you'll be happy. You'll be much happier. It's like getting your tooth pulled, but once it's pulled, then the pain is gone, or there's the pain for a few days, but the permanent pain is gone. So we have to think of Krishna within a context of he's loving. And as we said on Monday, he doesn't want his devotees to suffer. But sometimes he creates a situation that forces them because they're reluctant to give up something, or they're reluctant in some way to move forward. And Krishna wants you to move forward. Sometimes I give this example. I don't know if it's a good example, but I think it's something to consider. Imagine, well, if you don't have children, it's hard to imagine, but okay, imagine you have children and your child runs away, like when they're 18 or something, and you don't know where they are. And obviously you want them to come back, you miss them, you're completely stressed, you're worried, and so forth. And if someone came to your house and said, I know where they are, but I think the only way they'll ever come back to you is if they go through difficulty out there, because they don't have a job, they're staying at their friend's house. It's not a good life, but they just have an issue with coming back home. So your friend says, I could make arrangements that would cause them like so much trouble they would have to come home. What do you think? So your first reaction as a parent would be, well, what are you going to do? Don't make it too bad. Just and you discuss. And you come up with a plan that it's not traumatic, it's just bad enough to bring them home. And that's what you want. And you'd probably be willing to do it. What do you think? I mean, there were many parents who tried to deprogram devotees to get their kids back. It's kind of similar. So Krishna is thinking, my devotee is weak, and so what can I do to bring them back? So if you see it as love, not as suffering, but as, it's a love tap. It's a love bite, then it's easier. Okay. Juliana says, my fear surrendering is what even is surrender? What does it even look like? What if I make a mistake? Yeah. There's always fear around the unknown. Whenever someone's afraid of surrender or afraid of whatever, a lot of the fear is because, well, I've never done it. So, I'm not going to go in that dark alley. I've never been there. If you want to know what it is, you read Shastra and you look at the surrendered devotees. But one thing I think that's really helpful is look at the advanced devotees, because the more advanced they are, the more surrendered they are. And how is their life going? Compare their life to your life, which one do you want to pick? The one less surrendered or more surrendered? So, Surrender means that I see everything in this world as Krishna's, and I see myself as Krishna's, and I'm willing to use everything in my possession as his. Acknowledge it, acknowledge that it's his, and use it as his, including myself and my mind and my senses, my words, my ears, everything. And those who do that develop love for Krishna. Those who don't. So obviously those who have love are better situated. So I've often said, Juliana, and I don't know if you heard me say this, we should not be afraid of surrender. We should be afraid of not surrendering. Even if you don't know what surrender is, just in principle, you can understand. It's a principle of bhakti, and Krishna says, surrender to me. So he wants something, give up the mentality that I'm the enjoyer, doer, and all of that stuff. So, yeah, we have a t-shirt that says surrender is beautiful. Everyone should buy it. I don't know if it's on the website yet, but we designed it. I don't know what happened to it after we designed it. Surrender is beautiful. Make a tattoo if you like. As someone once said, make a tattoo in your mind. Dhanaraj says, I think of Narayani being commanded by Mahaprabhu to cry in love of God and instantly developing prema. Sounds so fortunate, but a part of me feels like I'd be cheated from the experience of getting to struggle personally with my own freedom to love him. Krishna knows like how to do heart surgery, so just leave it up to him. It's like Dhanaraj, is like you're saying. Well, I would ask Krishna to help me surrender, but I don't know if he knows how to do it. Maybe it's better I do it on my own. No. If he knows what you just said, so he'll take that into consideration when in his what operation, or in his what's the word I'm looking for, in his making his remedy for you, brewing it up. He'll put in all the right herbs according to what you need. I have an Ayurvedic doctor, and every so often I meet him, and he says, "Okay, now I'm giving you new medicine." It's like that. I I don't think we should have the fear that Krishna will put you through something you can't take. Because that would only happen if you really don't want to be Krishna conscious, because you would resist, because you're becoming closer to Krishna, you resist it. But if you really want to be Krishna conscious, you can do it because that's what you want. So why would you resist it if ultimately you want it, right? Like sometimes, you've fallen in love and you're like, I'm never doing that again. I lose myself and I suffer. But then you do it again. And why do you do it again? Because you find somebody that you trust, right? So, yeah, I wouldn't worry that I couldn't handle what Krishna gives unless I just don't want to be Krishna conscious. Then I would agree that it would be awkward and painful, because Krishna would be pushing you towards something that ultimately you're resistant to. And you might say, I'm resistant, but I think most devotees might be resistant, but not resistant enough when it's obvious that Krishna is pushing them towards something. It's like, okay, this is Krishna. I would be stupid to resist this. Right? Isn't it? When it's so obvious. Yeah. And that's Krishna's mercy. And that's part of his, let him do his thing. Have you ever heard Prabhupada say that if you just listen, read or listen to Shastra, to the sadhus, Krishna from within becomes pleased, and then he's like, oh, this person's trying to be Krishna conscious. Let me help them. So as long as that desire is there, then, and you're not resisting his help, then he'll guide you and so on. And Dhanaraj, I think we could also say, like, what if Krishna gives me a realization I can't handle? Has that ever happened to you? Like, whoa, this realization, I gotta put it in the refrigerator and just think about it. It's too much. No, it's like, wow, thank you, Krishna. That's beautiful. Isn't it? It's like you want those realizations. So if he's not going to give you a realization you can't handle, why would he do something else you can't handle? I think that's a false fear, as all fears are false generally, unless it's a rattlesnake in front of you or something, or a tiger running after you. Okay, Katie says, oh, Sono says, I can understand completely we need to surrender to Krishna, but it seems full surrender is very difficult. Why is this so? I can surrender partially, but still cannot surrender fully. Is it because of ego? I have some good news to all of you about fully surrendering, especially all of those of you who are afraid of fully surrendering. Here's the good news. You can't fully surrender until you can fully surrender. So that solves that problem. So you don't have to be like, I'm afraid of fully surrender. Well, you can't do it yet. So what are you afraid of? Does that make sense, Sono? Yeah. Like there's this fear, if I become Krishna conscious, I'll become detached, but you can't become detached before you become detached. You have to be Krishna conscious to be detached because detachment is natural. So it's not like you're going to wake up one day, and have a day nightmare. I want to give up everything. Oh no. Oh no, what's happening to me? I'm going crazy. You wouldn't do that unless you were actually there. So you don't have to worry about being more detached than you are. I mean, the only way you have to worry about that is if you're like completely fanatical and out of balance and you have no idea where you're at and you think you're renounced and you're not, and you're giving up things, but you're totally attached to the very things you're giving up. That could happen, but that's just immaturity. But so um, let me read what you said again. Mm, mm, mm. We need to surrender, but it seems full surrender is very difficult. Yeah. Why is this so? Well, as you said, it's false ego. False ego is an identification with I, me, and mine. This is my body. These things are mine. Everything's for me. Right? That's our conditioning. So if that's my conditioning and somebody comes along and goes, hey, it's not yours, it's mine. Like, get out of here. You're not getting that. And you're very proud of yourself and you're proud of your beauty and intelligence and money and influence. And someone comes and says, hey, that's not you. You're not beautiful. You're not rich. You're not any of that. It's like, get out of here. I don't want you around. So that's what Krishna is saying. Those things aren't yours. They're mine. That beauty you think you have, that's not yours. It came from me and it's not even who you are. Like, who wants to hear that? Who wants to sign up for that program? We're standing in a line, and then the next one first in line gets Krishna to tell him, everything you have is mine, so just give it to me and just put it over here. And all the pure devotees will be like, yeah, and all the not pure devotees will be like, do I have to do this? I'm not ready for this, right? And Krishna says, okay, you're not ready for it, but I just want to tell you a little secret. It's not yours anyway. It's mine. So you can admit it or not. You can pretend it's yours, but it's not. Then you're not taking it with you. And you didn't create it. So, once that surrender is just an acknowledgement of what is. And false ego is acknowledgement of what is not. That's pretty simple, right? So why would I be afraid to acknowledge what is? Because nobody likes the truth. Everyone wants to live in illusion. Because illusion is comfortable, right? Everything is fine, no problems. Don't ruffle my feathers. And then, 3 days later, you get fired from your job. So it would be better just to be realistic about it. Like, I could lose my job. This world isn't the best thing I've ever seen. So, I mean, if you want you want a definition of surrender, Juliana, it's just like believe what Krishna says and do it. That's pretty simple, right? It's a pretty simple definition, isn't it? Believe what Krishna says and do it. That's a surrender devotee. So that means not surrender is don't believe what Krishna says and or don't do it. Okay. So yeah, what do you think? Pretty simple. Yeah. I think it's I think it's extremely important for all of us to overcome any resistance or fear we have about surrender because it's all illusory, because surrender is beautiful. And not surrender, that's what we should be afraid of. That's where the resistance should be. And so many of us have it backwards. That's a problem, right? But of course, that's the nature of conditioned life. Everything's backwards. We think good is bad, up is down, right is wrong, wrong is right. That's the qualification for being in the material world. So naturally, well, we want a religion. Like, look at Christianity. Look at these, so many religions where absolute surrender is not really like the baseline. You can, and the prosperity gospel is the antithesis of surrender. You surrender to God to get, because He'll give you. That's not why we surrender. We surrender because that's our constitutional position. Mm, mm. It is because not ego, false. It's because of false ego. This is mine. I'm not going to give it to you, Krishna. I'll give you 10% max. How's that? Krishna says, okay, I'll give you 10% mercy. Krishna says, okay, we'll make a deal. You give me 10%, I give you 10% back. No problem. Right? So how much mercy do you want? 10%? We should always understand that whatever we hold back, we're always a loser. Now, in addressing your question, Sonal, I would say that yes, surrender cannot be artificial because if it is, it's not sustainable. And we all are on different levels. So you can't say after this class, okay, you're writing a check, you go to the bank. How much do I have? I'm writing a check. I'm sending it, that's it. I surrender. Um, it's not like that because the next day you'll be like, oh my God, what did I do? I didn't have money for groceries. I can't do this. I'm not a sannyasi. It has to be natural and sustainable according to one's advancement and realization. In that way, in that sense, it won't be painful. Yeah. And as I said, it will develop as we advance. But the point is, we should never be resistant to any idea in Krishna consciousness. Even if we can't do it today, we should never be resistant to it. That's a problem. So like you might say, well, I'm a new devotee and I have so many attachments and this and that. That's fine. Use what you can in Krishna consciousness. Understand the concepts of surrender, understand that this is really where I want to go, who I want to be, and so forth. And put that on your bucket list. Like this is my goal, right? And then surrender according to your ability so it's sustainable and it doesn't, upset you. So as long as you're not resistant to it, then you'll get there. That's not a problem. It's not a problem where you are on the continuum. The problem is if you don't want to reach the goal, that's where the problem is. It's not because you can't be at the end when you're beginning Krishna consciousness. Obviously, right? So it's okay you're not at the end as long as you're willing to go to the end. And you might say, I'm not ready for that yet. Okay, understandable. But we don't want to look at it as something that I will never be ready for. I don't want to be ready for, that scares me, that so forth. It should attract us, even if I'm not ready for it. Like, sometimes if you see a devotee and they're very renounced, very detached, you might think, I could never be like that, but I would love if I could be. So there's a little seed there and a desire. But realistically, you're like, yeah. So maybe when you're 75, that becomes a reality for you. Say, actually, now I think I could do it. That desire I had when I was 45, I think it can manifest now when I'm 75 because I'm in the right position. So, you know, in Krishna, when you have that desire, Krishna notes it and he'll help you get there. So that's the biggest problem, to not have that, to run away from that desire, thinking I'm not qualified. It's okay, you're not qualified. Nobody's like qualified for full renunciation in the beginning. Very few anyway. But the desire for it is great. And then to know when you can manifest that desire, that requires some maturity, how to manifest it. So you don't manifest it artificially and then it comes like a rubber band and it comes back and hits you because you couldn't do it, or the rubber band broke because you pushed yourself too far. Okay. Colin Wilchan says, not yet purified to the extent of praying like that. When purified, I think I won't fear and won't feel the pain also. You know, I have a prayer for you, Colin Wilchan. You take Prabhupada's prayer. Let's go back to Prabhupada's prayer. You can pray to Krishna, Krishna, I'm unwilling to become Krishna conscious. So can you nudge me a little bit to become so? You can pray like that for all of those who are full, are afraid to pray for the full, pray and pay for the full program, the full price for the full course. You can just take a lesson. Krishna, can you give me one little lesson? I want to get my feet wet, see how it works. You know, you can pray like that. Krishna, just can you do it so like I can handle it, and you know, try it out. And if you like it, you can pray a little while. Okay, can you give me a little more this time? It's like going to the gym, you know, just, okay, I'll lift, you know, 25 kgs and I'll work my way up. And these other guys are in there lifting, you know, like 40, 50, 60, 70. You know, I'm not going to do that. I'll try a little, see how it goes. That's what I would suggest. Probably that relates to most of us. And of course, as you get older and closer to the end, you know, it's not like you have a whole life ahead of you. I'm going to do this, go here, go here, have this, buy this. You know, it's like your end is you like end up at Krishna's lotus feet. So to pray like this is like, that's kind of natural at the end. What are you going to pray for at the end? A Rolls Royce? Like you're 75 or 80, 85. Krishna, give me a Rolls Royce. I'm 85 and never had a Rolls Royce. Can you give me one? No, not going to pray like that. I hope not. So these kinds of prayers become more natural the older you get, the more your life is kind of turning down materially and you're turning it up spiritually. This is pretty natural, right? Because, you know, I'm getting close to the finish line and I don't know if I'm ready. Krishna, can you get me ready? Can you just like do what you have to do? Need me in the right way. Okay. I'm not sure if this is off topic, but I remember Chitra Mataji from Vrindavan and what Krishna told her. Your past, present, and future, just give it to me. I was wondering, what does it mean to give our past? Yeah. There's this lady named Chitra. She lives in a tent on the banks of the Jamuna, Kishigat. And she said, give your past, present, and future to Krishna. Well, you know, I can't say exactly what she meant. Maybe I had more realization at the time, but I mean, one sometimes the Christians say, like, whatever your problems you have, just give it to God, he'll take care of it. So like whatever was messed up in the past, it's like, Krishna, you know, purify it, take it, or make me forget it, or whatever. I think her point was everything for Krishna. So I mean, you could say materially, whatever I accumulated in the past, give that to him. Whatever, you know, benefits I have from the past, I can give that. Whatever I'm going to do in the future, I offer that to him. Maybe that's what she meant. But you could, I don't know, you can interpret it any way you want. Because I don't know if we asked her to explain it, did we? Do you remember? Yeah. Kitty says, is the fear of being pushed towards something we can't handle, lack of faith? This would be me, I think. I think it would be good If we all understood, Krishna will not push you to something you can't handle. Or another thing we could say is, if Krishna pushes you to something you can't handle, he'll give you the ability to handle it. I mean, maybe you can't handle it right at this moment, but if he pushes you, he'll give you the ability to handle it. That way you'll grow. Yes? I don't think we should ever fear that we can't handle something. I mean, we, we say these things. I'm afraid that I won't be able to handle it. All right, so give me an example of where Krishna put you in a situation you couldn't handle. And probably nobody has an example of it, but we just say these things. Don't you think that's interesting? So that means one teacher defined fear as the belief that we can't handle something without any experience of that belief being true. It's a very interesting definition of fear. So if you think about a fear you have, and you think, oh, I could never do that. And generally, it's something you've never done. So you're saying, I can never do it. What's your evidence? It's a belief that I couldn't do it. And even if you tried it and you failed, it still doesn't mean that you can't do it now. So it's a belief in your inadequacy to handle a situation without necessarily any way to validate that, because you've never done it before. I could never fly an airplane. How do you know? Have you tried? No, I just know I couldn't. Well, you don't. How would you know until you do it? Try it, or go take flight lessons and see. Right? I couldn't handle surrender. All right, well, let's do an experiment. Surrender and see what happens. See if you can handle it. Can I make a promise? You can. If Krishna, whatever Krishna puts you in, he'll help you handle it. Sometimes we go through situations and we learn so much and we say, wow, it was amazing. I learned so much. I just never want to go through that again. And often Krishna is saying, yeah, you won't have to. You got the lesson. I don't need to put you through it again. And Krishna is saying, I know that was heavy. Even I wouldn't want to go through that, but that's what you needed. And I only had to put you through it until you got the lesson. Now I'm not going to put you through it again. And you were able to handle it. So sometimes it's like that. It's true. The difficulty which I couldn't handle, but he only puts you through it once until you about break. And then when you're about to break, he comes and saves you. And he goes, yes, I think we got the tooth out. I think we're good now. At least I've been in situations like that. And I have a situation I was in. It was so difficult. After I went through that situation, anywhere in the world I'd be where there'd be problems in temples and difficulties devotees are going through, I felt like I just come back from the war and this is like nothing. Like, you think this is difficult? Are you kidding? Go to Ukraine, go to Russia, go to Gaza, that's difficult. So it was like that. So Krishna, I think he did that to me just so I would become stronger. And so that anything else which was difficult was like, compared to this is nothing. A lot of devotees will look at my life and say, well, it looks really difficult. I could never do it. And I'm like, what's difficult? So you have to deal with all these people and problems and they depend on you and you have to be an example. And all that. It's like, oh, there's nothing compared to what I had to do before. So that's beautiful, isn't it? That he would do that to me so that now my life is easier. Or you go through a difficulty and you get a lesson, a realization that's so profound that it affects your whole life. And that it nurtures you throughout your life. It edifies, it enlightens you throughout your life. And you're so grateful that you went through it. And you understand, oh, that was Krishna. He gave me a realization that was so necessary. And I could have only gotten that realization by going through that situation. So Chaitanya Dasi can fly an airplane once, but she said she has to take out insurance because she's going to crash the airplane. Yeah. Yeah, you can fly it. You can do simulated flying that way, save the airplane. Yeah, so I would suggest that rather than fearing we can't handle the situation, think, if Krishna puts me in a situation, he'll give me the ability and the strength to handle it. Okay, Esther says, is there a wise way to look optimistically and not run away from some high desires for ourselves, like trust in us that we could become more into what Krishna desires, even if in the past when I followed even 16.4 for years, it backfired because I was not really there. And now I'm trying again, and I know there must be a different, more mature way to do it to stay inspired without leaving, just because I did not follow what is for me and tried to surrender as better devotees could. Thank you. Esther from Croatia. Wow. Yes, the answer is yes. And so what you need to figure out is how many of the 16 and how many of the 4 you can follow steadily. And or maybe it's 32 and 8 principles. I don't know. Maybe it's more. Maybe you didn't follow enough. That was the problem. The magic word which I use to help devotees understand what level they need to be on to maintain whatever it is, materially, spiritually, sadhana, service, whatever, is the word sustainability. So you ask yourself, this 16.4, 8.3, 3.5, 3.7, 8.4, 16.3, like which one is sustainable to me? Right? Like, yeah, I could do this. I have aspiring disciples, they cannot chant 16 rounds. So I say, well, make a vow. How many rounds can you chant? Make a vow to me of how many rounds you can chant, because it's good for them. And they're like, okay, I made a vow. This is good. This is my vow. It doesn't have to be 16. It has to be something. You want to get initiated, 16. If you want to go back to Godhead, yeah, 16 is good for that, because when you get to the gates of Raj in the spiritual world, they're going to look up, how many rounds you were chanting each day. And they're like, I have a problem with you. You want to get in here, but okay, you didn't do 16. So I'm going to have to give you an exam, an SAT, like we have to get into universities if you don't have the grades, So, but you can gradually work up. You can, it's not like, okay, so you say, Esther, you say, well, I could do 4 and 4, 4 and 3. Okay, whatever, do that, because it's only going to get better. But if you say, I can't do 16 and 4, then for many devotees, it's either 16 and 4 or 0 and 0 or 0 and 2 or whatever. So you definitely want to avoid that. And the way you avoid that is finding what's sustainable. And then after it's sustainable, if at some point you want to do more, then do more what is sustainable. And that way you would never have the problem you had before, because I mean, I understand why devotees have this problem, because when you come to ISKCON, everybody tells you 16 and 4, you go to hell. Isn't it kind of like that? Something, isn't it sort of like that? Because there's these verses, if you're not initiated, then you'll have to recycle in the species. And, there's so many other verses. If you have the holy name, everything's good, initiated or not. So that's, false propaganda sometimes, or false pressure, I would say. Maybe there are Shastric verses like that, but a lot of that initiation is actually second, not Harinam anyway. So that's also misunderstood. So as another topic for another day, but nobody's going to do well acting out of fear. Well, if I don't have a guru, if I don't get initiated, then what happens when I die? You have Prabhupada in the holy name. It's not like a bad deal. It's not like, I'm going to some planet. I want to go to the planet of the uninitiated. I don't know if I'll ever get out of there. No, it's like you have Prabhupada in the holy name. So you're good. And if you do 4 rounds every day, there's a chance that someday you'll do 6 and then 8. And then Like I say, when you're 75, you'll be like, you know, I want to go back to Godhead. I don't know how many days I have left. You might be doing 32, 64, 128, who knows? It's a natural process. But don't let people tell you like, well, if you don't do 16, you're a demon or something. There's a there's a planet for you. That's very Christian, isn't it? It's very Christian. Christian X. Christian X esque. I just made up that word. That means Christian like. If you don't like God likes sending his devotees to hell. Yeah, right. That's like he's got nothing better to do than send it. He sends Putana to Braj eternally, and all the other bhaktas who don't do 16 and 4, he sends to hell because that's like what he does. And no, it's not like that. Especially in Kali Yuga, it's not like that because Mahaprabhu is the personification of the compassion of Radharani. So why would he do that? Right? Does that help, Esther? Is that good? So, whatever's sustainable for you, just do it. And if somebody it's like if someone tries to tell you you're in Maya because you're only doing 8 rounds or whatever you're doing, just say, Hare Krishna, thank you. And like if you want to be Krishna conscious, you have to understand what's right for you, in spite of what other people may say, because unless they know you better than you know yourself, and unless you trust them more than you trust yourself, then you have to, you're the one who runs the show. One second. Right? I mean, they're not the one who's ultimately responsible for you. Right? So you know better than anyone what's sustainable. And you can have a spiritual master. You can be aspiring for a guru. You don't have to be chanting 16 rounds. You can tell your guru, or can I vow to you to chant 4 rounds? At least. Actually, I can't speak for other gurus. I can only speak for myself and probably a lot of other gurus. Yeah. So whatever you want to commit to that. But that way it's like it's kind of like an initiation, but it's not formal and it's not 16, but it's something so that you feel like you're connected. I think that's important. So anyone who's not chanting 16, who's aspiring to be initiated, they can vow to their guru they're aspiring to whatever they're doing. And if they're initiated and they can't chant 16 for some reason, then they could make a commitment. Guru Maharaj, I can only do 8 for now. I'm sick, or I'm having trouble in my life, whatever. At least there's, that's what I can do. That's better than giving up, isn't it? The all or nothing. If I can't be perfect, I might as well do nothing. That's not good. Okay. Esther's going to try 16. So see what you can do and then make a vow to keep it if you feel like it, if you feel that will help you. Because you can do 16, but make a vow for 8 also. Like because some people do 8, 16, 12, 14, 11, 8, 32, So sometimes they'll say, okay, I will vow to chant at least 8 every day. But in their mind, they're going for 16. So that can be done also. Scarlett says, what if one's past was full of pain, torture, and full of fear? Do one offer that to Krishna? Yeah, offer it to Krishna. Pray to Krishna, you forget it. And thank Krishna for saving you from that horrible life. In a sense, why would you want to think of it? You have such a better life now. You'd only want to think of it just to appreciate what you have now, how Krishna saved you from that. Had been Scarlet, is that why you're a devotee? Because you went through that suffering? Because if it is, then you can think of the past with fondness. Thank you, Krishna, for doing that. I mean, I think all of us had frustrations in our life that brought us to Krishna consciousness. And we look at those frustrations and say, thank you, Krishna, for doing that. Because if you didn't, I wouldn't be a devotee. I'd still be pursuing something else. So that's a thought. Sanal says, Krishna gives us everything, ability, intelligence, and all. So it's just our free will desire, which has been driving us as doers, including our false ego. Yes. I guess it's the same thing that we wanted to enjoy independently. Yes. I am independent. Did I tell you that story? I did tell you that story. America was founded in 1776. So in 1976, it was the 200th anniversary. And Prabhupada was in the capital of the United States, Washington, D.C. And there was an Independence Day parade and festival, and they brought him there. And they drove around. And I'm not sure what Prabhupada did, but when he saw it all, he started singing this nursery rhyme. You know, I don't know if you have this in India, your country. It goes like na 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 na. And you sing, you sing something to agitate your friend. Yeah, doing this and yeah, doing. So Prabhupada was singing, I am independent, I am independent. He started singing that, and all the devotees cracked up. They never heard anything like, I am independent, I am independent. So Maya will make you think you're independent, but it's pretty obvious we're not. But if you want to be independent and you want to think you're independent, why would you want to think you're not independent? So all the evidence that you're not independent, you will block out, or Maya will help you block, so that you can think you're independent, like Hiranyakashipu, give me eternal life. I can't do it, Brahma says. Well, then you make these conditions, like, and he's thinking that he outsmarted Krishna and he outsmarted Brahma. Okay, you want to think you did? Okay. That's, your prerogative, but it's not actually what happened. So if we want to think we're independent, Maya will help us. But a devotee is not trying to be in Maya. That's why for a devotee, it's pretty easy to see what's going on because they actually want to see it. Because they need to see it to get out of the material world. They need to see it to maintain their Krishna consciousness. And if you don't want to see it, you won't be able to maintain your Krishna consciousness. It'll just be hard because you'll be illusioned. And that propensity to be like Krishna, not in a good way, but in a bad way, will dominate. Does that make sense? Hey, so no, there's a hurricane coming. No, there's not. Yeah, you should block up your house and get out of there. No, I'm just going to stay. Because thinking about a hurricane is not pleasing. I'm just sitting here in my house. Everything's nice. I don't want to think about a hurricane. I have to pack up, board the windows. That's like trouble. And so it's something like that. I just don't want to bother. I don't want to bother with reality because reality is like I have a illusory life. I don't want to bring reality into that because then reality's not happy. The reason we can bring in reality is because we have a transcendental reality to focus on. So if this reality is horrible, it's not a problem for us because we're in a different reality. But if this is the only reality, yeah, who wants to think of that? It makes sense you would block it out of your consciousness because this is all I have, This is pretty miserable. So we don't mind facing this reality because it's not our reality. We're chanting every day. Our mind's in Raj. We're thinking about Krishna and his friends and, our relationship with him and, all these things. So, the world down here is not so great, but we don't deny that. It's not a problem for us. Right? Yes. Okay. Gabriela says. First context, meditating about rounds, the way to relate with Krishna. Sometimes imagine doing service with the rounds. Imagine that I serve Krishna picking flowers in a field or dancing at his feet. Is that okay? It's okay with me. I feel the best in the japa when doing this, yeah. Well, if you are actually liberated soul, that's exactly what you'd be doing. You'd be thinking about making garlands for Radha and Krishna and the flowers, and but the difference is they'd be there with you. You'd be seeing it like in your transcendental TV of your mind. So, we can practice that. That's fine. And when you become more advanced, you won't only see it, but you'll be in the movie. You won't be looking at the screen. You'll be in it. You'll be one of the actors. So, yeah. We can aspire for that. That's for sure. Okay. Thank you for that sharing. I'm going to go back and I'm going to go back to the top. I'm going to read this again and see if, after reading it one more time, if anyone has any realization. And then I can say something about it. Yes, you can pray to Krishna. Krishna may be prayed that I am unwilling to become Krishna conscious. So you can force me to become. You can put me under certain circumstances so that I may be forced to accept Krishna consciousness. You can pray like that. It is Krishna's special favor and mercy that he sometimes forces a devotee to surrender to him. You know what I think? One second. So, this consciousness that Prabhupada's describing here, in one sense, a pure devotee doesn't have to pray for this because this is just how they feel. Like, did you ever not pray for something because it's just your normal state? That's always how you are. Like, you don't need to pray for it because that's just how you think, So for a pure devotee, I mean, not that a pure devotee doesn't pray because they like to express what they're feeling, but in another sense, when we're looking at this prayer and we're thinking, oh, I don't know, the thing to understand is, but this is the consciousness of a pure devotee. This is just like, and this is like, if you're a devotee, this is like the goal, to be like this 24/7. So if this doesn't appeal for you, then you might be in the wrong religion. You might need to find another religion where you can kind of do whatever you want and get to heaven. So now, if you're in this consciousness, then just imagine theoretically, you're in this consciousness, and then something happens in your life that doesn't go well. What will your reaction be? Your first instinctual reaction? Krishna's doing something to help me. That would be your instinct, wouldn't it? Because you have faith, confidence that whatever happens, Krishna is just helping you come closer to him. So everything that happens, that's how you would feel. So it wouldn't be difficult to accept situations in this world because this is the way you see it. But if you don't feel this way, then when difficulty happens, then how do you react? With resistance. Well, Krishna, why did you do that? Don't you love me? I'm your devotee. I don't understand. And then you have to go through all of that. I'm your devotee. You're not supposed to do that. And if I was just thinking yesterday, I think I do this all the time in my mind. I create movies in my mind of me talking to Krishna and Krishna saying things. And I think you should try to do this. It's like you have this doubt in your mind. Oh, Krishna, everything was great, and then you caused a problem. Like, why? Imagine what Krishna would say and just write it down or say it. This is what I think he would say. Because I'm trying to show you that you weren't ready for this, that you need to be. And how would you know unless I showed you this? Something like this. How will I make you ready? Like he might say, well, I told you, like one time there was a discussion about World War, or whenever there's discussion about death, Prabhupada was like, wow, it's heavy, very heavy sometimes. And somebody would die, untimely, a child or something, or there'd be discussion about World War and nuclear war and disaster and like that. And naturally, it was upsetting to the devotees. And Prabhupada, his mood was kind of like, why haven't you heard what I've taught you? Like, why are you upset? Like, did you think the body's going to last forever? Like when Prabhupada was dying, everybody's upset. It's like, why are you upset? I taught you for the last 12 years that we're not the body. So he wanted us to feel the mercy in the instruction, not feel the mercy because something bad happens and we doubt Krishna loves us. So when you have more of the consciousness of everything is moving in the right direction for my benefit, then when things are difficult, it's just naturally how you'll respond. It'll be much easier for you. But if you don't have that consciousness, then it can be really, really difficult. You could feel abandoned by Krishna in some way. That's my realization, at least one of them. The other thing that Prabhupada's saying is that this is a hard one also. He's saying this is Krishna's special favor. So we don't like difficulties, and it's kind of counterproductive to see that difficulties are God's favor. But when you see it's bringing you closer to him, then you acknowledge. Thank you, Krishna, for doing that. Thank you for creating this problem. It actually is helping me. I needed it. And once you realize that, then you can accept it as his favor, even though it didn't feel good, right? It was a reminder. Like we said on Monday, sometimes things don't go well. It's a reminder. My joke is, come to Alachua, the mosquitoes will remind you of one of the threefold miseries. Miseries caused by other living entities. You might forget that if you live alone in a place with no insects. You might forget there are other living entities to bother you. Come to Alachua, take a walk. You'll be reminded there are other living entities who bother you. If you don't believe me, I can show you all the wounds on my body where we do our food for life here. We feed the mosquitoes and the other weird insects we have here. In each species of life, there's so many thousands of species. And I think amongst the insect species, they're all here. Insects and spiders and cockroaches. They all moved to Florida a long time ago. So, but sometimes, everything's going great and then it doesn't go great. And it's a reminder, oh yeah, I forgot. I forgot I was in the material world there. I thought everything was great. So it's not like we're looking for misery, and it's not like bad if everything goes well. And the less you need Krishna to push you, then the less he will. So it's not like Krishna's just wants us to suffer. But if we do the wrong thing and we need to learn the lesson, then that's what happens. So yes, see if there's anything else. Surrender means to believe what Krishna says and do it. Okay. Can you send that to Satyarupa to put up? Juliana says, it makes me feel better knowing Krishna helps us. I seem to forget that often when it comes to trying to make any sort of advancement. Yeah, because you want to make more advancement than you're qualified to make in the period of time you want to make it. So then it's like, Krishna, what's up with you? You know, I want to be a pure devotee and the next day. So like, why not? I still have, problems here. Like, don't you love me? No. Uh, he's if Krishna weren't helping you, you wouldn't be here. So that's bottom line realization. Okay. Right? You are here. That's a sign of Krishna's mercy. Now, it's like I have a 1993 Toyota Corolla and I want to drive as fast as the person next door who has a 2025 Ferrari. It's not going to happen. And now I'm all frustrated and I'm yelling at my Toyota Corolla and crying and calling up Toyota and say, this car is horrible. It's a terrible car. It only goes like 100 miles an hour maximum or whatever. And they say, well, it's not a terrible car. That's just what it was designed to do. Well, I want it to be like a Ferrari. Well, then you have to buy a Ferrari. Well, $350,000. I can't afford it. Well, okay. So keep your Toyota Corolla. Be happy with that. So it's kind of like that. I want to be a Ferrari Premi Bhakta in my Corolla. Well, work hard, save your money, invest it wisely, and by the time you're ready to retire, maybe you can buy a Ferrari. It's just like that. And so once you know that, then you're like, okay, I'm doing good. That's where the frustration comes, isn't it? Expecting, like it's always good to expect more, but it's not good to be frustrated when it doesn't happen. It's always good to hanker for it. And the frustration should turn into inspiration to be more qualified so that I can get what I want rather than just pure frustration. Not fair. Yeah. Mm. He's always helping you. But he can only help you as much as, he can help you. Like I could teach you how to box, but I can't teach you how to box with Mike Tyson because, he's bigger and badder and tougher, right? So I can only teach you to box with another girl your size. That's all you can expect. And you have physical limitations. You can't box like a man your size. They're stronger. So that, it's just okay, that's fine. It's just what it is. So according to where you are in bhakti, the amount of time you've been doing it and so forth, you're probably doing quite well. According to me, you're doing fine. Keep up the good work, Juliana. Yeah. Okay. Mm. Uh, Chaitanya Dasi. Maybe we're just not seeing this in the right way. We focus on the difficulties, but it's not that Krishna gives us difficulties for the sake of difficulties to punish us. His mercy is the realization we got going through. Did I say that? The difficulty. He just knew we couldn't get it out. Yeah, I think I said that. Yeah. This is all ABCs, Bhakti. Okay. Any questions before we go on to a prayer of Bhaktivinoda Thakur? Huh. It's funny because sometimes someone will post something I said and I think it's what they said, not what I said. I don't recognize it. And I look at it, I go, that's a good point. Anyway, it's interesting. The way realizations come is it's like they're not necessarily mine, they're Krishna's, and then my mouth is moving. And so I don't even identify with as mine. So sometimes I don't even realize what I say, which is very interesting. I mean, I'm not just me, that's for any teacher. Okay, so you want this is the 6th verse of Manasa Deha Gaya. Mukti Spriha Vihina Je Bhakta. Labaite Tako Sangha Anurakta. I yearn for the company of that devotee who is completely devoid of all desire for worldly enjoyment or liberation. So there's this ongoing, what's the word, not ongoing. There's this perennial instruction. You'll always hear it. And if you haven't heard it, you'll hear it now and you'll hear it the rest of your life. You should always seek out advanced association, more advanced than you are, because if you get association that's more advanced than you are, guess what it does? It makes you more advanced, obviously. So that, we have our friends, we have our equals, we reveal our mind to them. We need friendships. But we also need people who are more advanced. And by that association, so much benefit comes to us. So much good comes to us because we live in our own world with our own struggles, our own realizations, and so on. If we get more advanced devotees association, we get to see things from a higher perspective, from a different perspective, a more Krishna conscious perspective. And also in their physical presence, their bhakti wears off on us. So you'll always see this injunction. You'll always hear it. Associate with, find the most advanced devotee you can and associate with them. And interestingly, we could say, although I don't see this exactly in Shastra, I think indirectly it's there, we could say, become advanced yourself. That way you'll always have advanced association. So what does that mean practically? Well, if I chant good rounds, then I'll have the association of good japa. If I read Bhagavatam, then I'll have the advantage of hearing Bhagavatam. So if I become good association for myself, I'll get the benefit of that good association. Vice versa, if I become bad association, then I'll just scroll all day or whatever, sleep and eat. Sleep, eat, and scream, I guess, right? You ever do that? Sleep, eat, and scream? That's bad association, right? So good, you do things that are good for your bhakti, you get good association with yourself. It's kind of painful to have to associate with yourself all the time, sometimes, if you're not being good association, isn't it? You ever feel like that? That was like the big realization during COVID. What was your realization during COVID? I hate myself. That was my realization. I had to spend all the time alone with myself. That was torture. Yeah. For the extroverts, it was torture. Introverts like it more. But I think we can all relate. We can all relate. Sometimes I'll be traveling and there'll be other senior devotees there and they'll ask me to give class. They'll say, do you want to give class? Then I say, I always listen to myself. I'd rather listen to somebody else. Like I know what I'm going to say. I know how I think. I know how I see this verse. It's the Mahatma way. So let me hear from someone else who sees it differently. So when we're only associating with ourselves, we're only reinforcing our own way of thinking and realization, which is, I'm not saying that's bad or wrong. It's just not the only way to see it. And so, yeah, we need that advanced association. You could say from this verse that Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying that this is required because he's praying for it. So it's like, this is required for my advancement to have association of more advanced devotees, because their association will purify me in ways that I could not purify myself. And that we all have experience of. And that's why association is so powerful. We get to hear their realizations. We get to feel them, see how they think. We just get to be inspired in their presence. Okay. We can go to the next verse. Bhukti Mukti Spriha. No. Janaka Janani Daita Tanai Prabhu Guru Pati Tuha Sharvamoy. Father, mother, lover, son, Lord, preceptor, and husband, you are everything to me. In case you don't know, I actually sang this song with another devotee in English. And the one and only Chaitanya Dasi will try to find it. I think my site, Mahatma's Music, has officially, oh, there it is. Is it there? Officially merged in Brahman. There it is. So if you can you can click on that if you want the song. Mind, body, family, I give to you, my Lord, offering at your lotus feet, O Nanda Kishore, in life or in death. How do the words go? In life or in death? Something. Yeah. Abhinav has a very important question. And this question, Abhinav, is answered in a purport to the Bhagavatam. And it's not exactly on topic, but I'll answer it because the answer is very interesting. Is aspiring for a wife more elevated than me, is good because I feel myself I can't go back to God at this life. We have the whole song in English. Okay. Prabhupada answers this question in the purport. And I won't comment on the purport. I'll just tell you what he says and you can meditate on it. He said, if the wife is more advanced than the husband in a marriage, I forget exactly what he says, but something to the effect that it won't be successful. The marriage is not going to work. So all ladies, if you are more advanced than your husband, immediately demote yourself in Krishna consciousness and make sure he's more advanced than you otherwise. That's why you're having all your problems. There's a couple and the woman is more advanced. And I was writing to a devotee where they live to help them. And I said, I think the husband needs to become more advanced and I think the wife needs to become less advanced. Because it's like, it's not working. Like she's more detached than him. He's here and she's here. He needs to come, she needs to come down and he needs to come up. Of course, it's nice to have a wife that's very Krishna conscious, but Abhinav, most women do not respect men unless they're more everything than they are. Stronger, smarter, richer, more Krishna conscious and like that. That's so if you're like to your wife, just tell me what to do. I'm a fool. I don't know anything. I'll do it. Most women will not like that. It'll be an awkward marriage. I mean, in some marriages it can work, but generally it doesn't. Anyway, that's the purport. I can't tell you where it is, but it's there somewhere. I gave a class on that verse long ago, like 5, 6, 7 years ago, and I didn't note where it is, but that was the purport I read. And he said that if the woman is more advanced than the man, it's not going to work. That's a generalization. What he meant by more advanced, that's subject to discussion, but I don't think it's, I have a little, Chaitanya, can you give this to Satyarapa? I thought of this yesterday. It's okay to eat whatever you want as long as it's healthy. Similarly, it's okay to marry whoever you want as long as it's healthy. So, Abhinav, you can marry whoever you want as long as it's healthy. And yes, you are right. Having a wife who's more Krishna conscious could be really good for you, but it may not be so good for her. And it may make you think, well, I don't have to do anything because she's Krishna conscious. So you have to analyze what's healthy. You like that statement? Eat whatever you want as long as it's good for you. I think that's good advice. Eat whatever you like as long as it's good. And marry whoever you like as long as it's good. Then most people marry whoever they like, whether it's good or not. Or most people marry whoever they like when it's not good. As long as they like it, they marry. That's the way we eat, isn't it? Most of the time. We eat what we like, not what's good for us. So eat what you like, that's good for you. That's better. Okay. Father, mother, lover, son, Lord, preceptor, and husband, you are everything to me. So the best way to understand this verse and Krishna consciousness in general is to understand it through our experience in this world of love, which of course does not equate to the love of the Brajvasis, but we have nothing else to compare it to. So we know the love of a mother for her son, the love of a son for his mother. We know the lover of men, the love of men and women. We know the love of who else is there? Father, the parents for the children. We know the intensity of that love. The intensity of love for the devotee for Krishna is infinitely greater. It's like unimaginably greater. We don't even know, we have no experience of love like that. But we can understand the love of the devotee for Krishna is so intense that Krishna is everything. It's like there's like nothing more. I heard a story today that Subal, he always has to be with Krishna. He always has to be holding Krishna. And if Krishna goes away, he goes crazy. And if Krishna goes away, he goes to sleep and dreams about holding Krishna's hand because he can't stop holding Krishna's hand. Could you imagine how much love that is? Like he'll go, if Krishna goes away, go absolutely crazy. Like you have so many friends when you grew up and your friends have to go home. You didn't go crazy. You're like sad, but not crazy sad. So Krishna is everything. He's the father, he's the mother, the nurturer, the son, he's like everything, like whatever you want, he is that, right? Yeah. Okay. We have one more verse. Bhaktivino kohe shuno kanal radha nata tui amara para ardan. Bhaktivino kohe shuno kanal radha nata tua hamara param. Kanan. Oh, Bhaktivinoda Kohe Shuno Kanan. Shuno Khan. Radha Krishna Tue Hamara Param. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, O Kana, please hear me, O Lord of Radha, you are my life and soul. Yeah. So when we started reading this verse, we were saying that Bhaktivinoda Thakur is just verbalizing how he feels about Krishna. This is what you do when you love somebody. Poetry and all this is all about verbalizing your feelings. So, Krishna, I love you. Just wanted to tell you, right? Isn't that what people do when they love one another? They tell. There's a song like that. I just called up to tell you I love you. You know that song? As they say, if you know that song, you're showing your age. Anyway, there's a song like that. I don't know. I just called up to tell you I love you. Something like that. Yeah. Yeah. This is my version of the song. She has put it up. Mind, body, family, I give to you, my Lord, offering at your lotus feet, O Nanda Kishore. This might have been written by someone else, and I adapted it. In life or in death, all difficulties go by taking shelter of your feet, O Nanda Kishore. Kill me or save my life, do as you wish to do. For you are my only Lord, and I only want to serve you. If it is your will that I be born again, then may it be in the home of one who is your friend. Bhaktivinoda Thakur prays, O Kana, hear my call, O Lord of Radha's life, you are my life and soul. The life of a worm I'll take as your devotee true. I wouldn't want the life of Brahma living adverse to you. He who has no desire for salvation has no care. Such a devotee's company, I always want to share. There should be a comment there. No, for salvation has no care. That's good. Teacher, guru, husband, Lord, father, mother, lover, son, you are everything to me. You are the only one. Chorus. Bhakti Vino Preso Kana, hear my call. O Lord of Radha's life, you are my life and soul. 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 Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai. Now, we're going to have a little celebration at the end of this class. You can all officially surrender your lives to Krishna. And if you do, we'll give you a certificate. As it'll say, so-and-so Das or so-and-so Dasi is officially acknowledged as a surrendered soul to Krishna. Okay, here's the deal. If you're afraid of surrender, try it for a day. If it works for one day, you can do it the next day. If it works the next day, do it the next day. Yeah. Or find your level, try different levels of surrender and find the one that works for you. But we can always do something better. That's for sure. Okay, sound good? Thank you for coming. And life is miserable when you're not surrendered to Krishna. I can testify to that. And the more you become Krishna conscious, the more natural it is to be surrendered, and the easier it is, and the more joyful it is. And you can't imagine living any other way. You can't even imagine thinking about yourself. I was listening to this devotee, and he was saying, I just called to say, I love you. Yeah, it's the song. He was saying how, in our culture, it's all about me, and we're so stressed out because someone has what we don't have, and it makes us miserable, and we're envious of this one, and we want to work here, but we can't, and our friend works there, and we don't like it. And our life is just it's just horrible. And he was saying, and then you have a child, and all you can think about is that child. So you actually become free from all this me consciousness. I'm not happy because I have I don't have the design, can't afford the designer brand shoes, and all my friends have it. And all that consciousness you're free from because you're not thinking about yourself. You're thinking about this, making this other person happy. So Krishna consciousness is like that. You're free from that because you're thinking about making Krishna happy. So then it's no longer about you, and life's easy. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So I will officially disappear. I have to make a few calls right now. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gauranga. All the surrendered souls ki jai. Only surrendered souls are going to make the world Krishna conscious. Only surrendered souls are going to push on this movement. Go for it. Haribol. Gauranga.